guys? This is reviewing. This is a movie that I honestly was not really looking forward to at all, but I knew that it was in fact coming out. It's like the last, I'd say, big major release of the year, and that is none other than another amazing R-rated comedy known as Father Figures. And what Father Figures is essentially about is we center on Owen Wilson and Ed Helms, and they play these two fraternal twins who really don't get along at all. They're very much jealous of each other's lifestyles, and they've now come back for their mother's wedding. She's now getting remarried, and while this goes on, she decides to drop a bomb on them when she actually tells them that the father that they presumed was dead all this time is actually very much still out there. So now these two kind of go on a bit of a road trip to track down said father. So, Father Figures in general, I was absolutely dreading this movie. I mean, just the poster in general is enough of a reason to really not want to see this movie. It just looks so lazy. It just looked like something they were just kind of shoving in theaters. And that no one was really talking about. I've seen no promotion for this movie whatsoever. Just everything about this, like I said, it just looked really, really rushed, and I had no interest in it whatsoever. But this has been an amazing year for R-rated comedies, and as you guys know, I'm trying to make, and it's gonna go up later tonight, I'm trying to make, the best worst list possible, the most accurate one, and I figured, you know what, I gotta watch this movie in order to have an accurate have an accurate worst list, because I really did think this would qualify, and to be honest with you, Father Figures really isn't all that bad. I actually kind of enjoyed this movie. I know, I'm shocked. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not an amazing movie or anything. It does definitely have some significant problems, but as this goes on, it actually gels into something truly great, truly really good, and that was something I was definitely very surprised with. We're just getting into it right now, starting off with the cast. And that is surprisingly one of the best elements of this entire film. To me, it seemed like this was a cast that just didn't care, and that they were all just kind of doing it for the paycheck and going through the motions, and that's not really what's going on here. I think, honestly, most of the cast here did a pretty good job. I don't think everyone did a great job, but for the most part, I thought everyone did a really good job. Let's talk about our two leads, Owen Wilson and Ed Helms. Now, these two in the movie in general, they start off the film and it's a bit rough because their characters, we'll get to them in a little bit, but I really wasn't sure about their chemistry. I just didn't really know, what we were gonna really get from these two, but I have to say, as the movie went on, I thought their chemistry was honestly spot on. I thought these two worked really well together. You really got the sense that they were these two brothers that just didn't really get along and were very envious of each other, and especially as the film goes on, more secrets start to come out about these two, and you really start to care for them, and eventually, once they start to get on board with each other, you really find something endearing about it, and it seemed like these two worked well together. I honestly want to see them make more movies. They have really great chemistry here, and that is definitely one of the most surprising elements of this entire film. I thought this film was just going to be comprised of people not really giving a shit, but these two honestly really gave it their all, especially Ed Helms, and I genuinely want to see them do another movie together because they were fantastic here. And then the rest of the cast here as well, I thought was definitely pretty good. Katt Williams in this movie is absolutely hysterical. He's not in this movie for that long, but he plays this hitchhiker that the two of them find, and his scenes in the movie are among some of the funniest. He was definitely a lot of fun to watch. Also, J.K. Simmons in this movie. Again, did not expect anything from him because it's J.K. Simmons, and why would he be so good in a comedy like this? But he's actually awesome. His character is genuinely a badass, and even though he doesn't really have a ton to do in this movie, he's still a lot of fun to watch. Christopher Walken, really. Glenn Close, I thought was also really good. The only few performances I didn't really think were that great. Terry Bradshaw, he just kind of seemed like he was in it and then he was out. You didn't really get much of anything out of him. Ving Rhames is barely in this thing. If you guys are really looking forward to a great Ving Rhames performance, that is not in this movie. And Ed Helms' son. Oh my god, this guy, this character. Now, I've talked about in The Greatest Showman how most times kids are really annoying, and that's really what this performance is like. This is your typical child performance where it's not really that great of an actor. He honestly is quite annoying in the first few minutes of the movie, and he's been insufferable. Luckily, he's not in the movie for that long, but he's one of the vocal points of, Ed Helms' storyline, and I really wasn't a fan of him. Overall, though, I thought most of the cast actually did a pretty good job. I was into, the acting for the most part, and I think, again, it's a lot more effort than I was definitely expecting here. So now let's get to the directing and the writing, which, again, this is something that very much surprised me. I thought this film was going to be so totally inconsistent, and it was just going to be your typical raunchy comedy. And believe it or not, it's actually not that. I thought in general that, where they end up taking this film, where it really ended up going, I will admit, the first, I'd say 20 to 30 minutes, the comedy's pretty rough. I really was not too into it. The film starts off with this really off-kilter, just very, repugnant joke about, involving Ed Helms and his sexuality, and, I didn't particularly find it funny. I thought it was honestly, kind of dumb. But luckily, the film actually isn't that raunchy. Some of the humor is actually really funny, and especially, like I said, once they go on that quest, that's when I thought the movie really got great. Especially once J.K. Simmons came into the story. I thought from there, the movie really got better and better as it went on. And I'm not saying there's, some, this is, some of the funniest stuff I've seen all year, but it was definitely funnier than I expected, especially with Katt Williams. I was laughing a lot at his stuff. And I did think that the comedy worked really well, but surprisingly, what works best in this movie isn't the comedy. What works best here is the amount of heart that this movie really has. This is something that, again, definitely wasn't expecting anything from, but there's actually a lot of heart to this movie. Without spoiling it, there's actually a lot of stuff that these two are going through, and, the way that these two kind of get closer throughout the film was honestly really sweet. And after a while, the film becomes less of let's just make a bunch of jokes to it actually becomes something kind of endearing and really heartwarming. I'm not gonna lie, I thought that the tone was honestly very well executed there. And again, I can't believe I'm actually saying it, but I enjoyed the serious tone. I thought it actually worked really well. The screenplay as well. Admittedly, the story isn't the most interesting. I mean, it's based off of something like Mamma Mia, which Mamma Mia is probably one of the dumbest musicals I've ever seen, but it's a guilty pleasure for the most part. I enjoy that movie. I think it's dumb fun. And this one I expected to be way worse than it was, but it actually does make quite a lot of sense when you really think about it, why they're going out here, and especially when you realize this movie's not really about them tracking down their father. I mean, sure, that's a big part of it, but it really is about these two learning to get along and learning to put their differences aside and trying to kind of deal with their own personal dilemmas. I mean, Ed Helms' character, for example, he's going through a bit of a midlife crisis, and, he's, like I said, very envious of Owen Wilson. Owen Wilson's turned out a lot more successful than him. Owen Wilson, we see, though, he also isn't doing all that great. He seems to be very successful, but you can tell that there's some sort of deep-seating hatred between these two, and watching those two put that aside, I thought was honestly very well done. It's a really well-done story. The dramatic moments, like I said, they don't feel like they come out of left field. It actually feels very natural, and especially once it started, I thought it made a lot of sense for them to get this, sort of negative energy out, and I definitely really did enjoy that. Like I said, the comedy here, I was definitely laughing quite a lot more than I was expecting. I did think that that was definitely very well handled when it comes to the comedy. I wasn't expecting anything, and there were some jokes that, I'm not gonna lie, definitely did have me laugh, especially some stuff towards the end of the movie, concerning this one specific twist I thought was honestly hilarious. I thought was definitely really well done in that way. Katt Williams, like I said, not in the movie too much, but when he's on screen, he's absolutely hilarious. I love what they did with him. But also, the reveal of them finding their father is extremely well handled. And like I said, this movie does get very dramatic towards the end. And let me just say, is it the most, is it an ending that I was expecting? Absolutely not. But surprisingly, I think in a lesser movie with actors that weren't as committed as these two were, because trust me, they actually very much are committed, this really could have crashed and burned. But because of how well the actors conveyed this emotion, this reveal honestly was really emotional, and it goes into some dark places that I truly was not expecting it to go, and it added this, it really grounded the movie in this way that I really wasn't expecting, and I honestly really did love that. The movie really makes you understand why Glenn Close sent them on this quest. What's really going on there. There's more going on between the two brothers than we suspect, and I honestly really did love the way that was done. The final, I'd say, 15 minutes of this movie might be one of my favorite climaxes of the entire year, honestly. I love the way that scene was handled. I think it was honestly really well done, and again, I was really surprised by how great it really was. I still can't believe that this film is actually good. I'm shocked, honestly. I really can't believe it. The cinematography here I thought was good. It was definitely, there's some really nice shots in this movie. I think, the director here is known for really great cinematography, and I'm pretty sure he did the cinematography as well, and I thought it was honestly very well constructed. The score here, it's whatever. The editing, I will admit this movie is a little bit too long, especially the first act really did drag for me. I wasn't as into it at first. I didn't find it as funny, but like I said, once J.K. Simmons' character came into the story, I was pretty much on board for the rest of the film. I thought from there, it honestly got more and more entertaining as it went on. So, yeah, guys, Father Figures is surprisingly a really good time. Now, I'm not saying you should rush to the theater to see this, but if you want to watch, a pretty decent comedy with actually some emotional stakes and two surprisingly really great performances from both Ed Helms and Owen Wilson, I say check it out. I think it definitely is a really good way to end the comedy season, especially because this has really not been that strong of a year for R-rated comedies. This is definitely one of the better ones. It's not nearly as raunchy as I was expecting it to be. It doesn't really have that much gross-out humor. The trailer made it seem like it was going to, but this one really doesn't at all. The actors are trying a lot more than I expected to, and there's honestly some really nice heart that, like I said, really does ground the film and turn it into something much more endearing than I expected it to be. So Father Figures is, like I said, easily one of the biggest surprises of the entire year. It's not an amazing movie. The characters are kind of one note, some of them, but they do a really good job of deepening their characters, and in the end, it was definitely something I did enjoy. And I am overall going to give Father Figures overall a B-. So over, guys, I'm going to review Father Figures. How much you guys thought this movie overall? Left your thoughts. And with that, guys, in terms of at least major movie reviews, I'm done. Now, I'm not done completely. I still have quite a few movies to watch, but this is the last, big release coming out. Sometime today you will in fact be seeing my worst list. I definitely am going to try to get that up today, and then my best list is probably going up on Wednesday, so definitely look forward to that. But that's for this video. Hope you guys enjoy. I'll see you guys in my next video, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.